are tears because it's the first time that they have joint goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's just a beautiful place to be as a family, as a couple, and then also the conversations that you would have with your children later as they become young adults.
Your relationship with money matters. I'm Michelle Perkins, and this is the Money and You podcast, where I will be breaking down your relationship with money, offering tough love money tips, and a money dating plan that will focus on lifting the barriers to success to help pave the way for better money practices and increased wealth. It's time to take control to live a limit-free life. It starts today. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Money and You Show. Very excited to bring a fantastic guest to the show today. So I'm not going to chit-chat here. I'm going to bring her right on because you are going to love listening to Kim Curtis. Kim Curtis she's got a lot of letters after her name. Kim Curtis, CFP, CHFC, CLU, CAP, AEP, MSFS, is committed to creating a new paradigm around money, prosperity, and abundance. Her mission is to reveal life's best-kept secrets for the mastery of money. Kim is considered among the world's foremost experts in building wealth consciousness. She has directly worked with thought leaders, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and countless individuals looking to create an impact and flourishing, prosperous life. It's her experience that helps people change the way they think about money and life. Kim is CEO of Wealth Legacy Institute in Denver, Colorado, and her groundbreaking work in a client-centric planning model is the cornerstone of her firm's holistic and highly successful approach to integrated wealth management. The Planning Life Experience was awarded by the Editor's Choice by the Journal of Practical Estate Planning. As an award-winning wealth management advisor working at the intersection of money and life, Kim is a speaker and best-selling author of Money Secrets, Keys to Smart Investing and Retirement Secrets, Keys to Retiring Happy, Healthy, and Free. She's recognized by the American financial planning industry as having achieved the highest level of competence and expertise. She has shared the stage with astronaut Buzz Aldrin at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, received the Financial Innovator Award with the Business Expert Forum at the Harvard Faculty Club, and has been featured on the Jumbotron in Times Square. She's advised governors of states, national TV personalities, and even cage-fighting superstars in the UFC. She's been profiled on NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, and CW, as well as the Wall Street Journal. And we are so fortunate to have her here today on the Money and You Show. Yay! Thank you, Kim. And welcome.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you very much. I look forward to our talk today. Thanks.
Yeah, me too. And what an impressive resume or bio. I was floored myself reading it. So anyway, I just really want to thank you for your time today and to be here. And let's just jump in. I love that bit about money, the intersection of money and life. Do you want to just comment on that for a minute?
Oh, happy to. I'm in wealth management, and so I believe that how we do money is how we do life, and that money is this invisible thread that navigates through every part of our human existence. And so if our head is in the sand around money, trust me, it's in the sand on other areas of your life. And so that is kind of this intersection of money and life, is recognizing that you don't want to ignore it, because at your own peril.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. I agree with that. And that's a lot of what my Limit Free Life company is trying to help people understand when we talk about your relationship with money, because exactly what you were saying, that's just, reflecting the idea that money is a relationship and you have to show up for it. So I'd love for you to give us some of your ideas about how to show up for money, how to develop a relationship with money. And, there was a bit about consciousness, too, in your bio, and just how we can get a bit more conscious within that financial space.
I think the best way, Michelle, to describe that is to give you a little backstory of my own.
Okay.
So my parents got divorced when I was 14, and my mom got full custody of 3 teenage girls.
Wow.
So, and she had no employable skills. So she applied for, and I received government-assisted lunches. And it was a little red paper ticket. Similar to a lottery ticket, not like a raffle ticket that you see today. That's exactly what it looked like. And I would have to give that to the cashier every day at lunch. And I would go to the furthest line away from my peers, and and I would kind of pull it out of my pocket and put it under my plate. And right before I got to the cashier, I'd kind of look behind me and make sure that none of my friends were nearby before I had to actually physically hand that to her. And the shame around, everyone knew when they saw that ticket that you were the poor kid, and that my parents were divorced and that couldn't afford lunch, and the whole story around whatever I told myself at that time.
Right.
One of the things that my mom had was a value of your education. And so to get your education because no one could take it away from you. And that's what happened to her, which is why she had no employable skills. So I went to undergrad and then went to law school. And I had no business having school loan debt. I had no understanding of what that meant to my credit report, but defaulted within 6 months on my school loan debt. And at the time, in today's dollars, it was about $92,000.
Wow. Okay.
So imagine, and I'm sure there are many viewers and listeners out there that have felt the albatross of college debt and education debt, and how it feels hard to really get beyond that. But I had an anonymous donor pay $1,000 on my school loan debt. And remember, I was not paying attention to this. So the fact that I even opened this statement to see that the balance went down, not up, was in itself remarkable. And because it was anonymous, I could not ask them, why me, or what do you want from me? I had to ask those questions to myself. And so the question was, wow, if someone believed in me that much, who is it that they believe in? Who am I, and what do I believe in about me? And I have to say, Michelle, it was almost like a snap. It was this rush of emotion that was, I guess the best way to describe it was love. Mm-hmm. This wash of that someone cared about me that much. What was I doing? What was my limiting story that I was telling myself about my self-worth, that this person had to demonstrate it to me? And I think that whole self-respect, self-worth kind of came rushing to me at that moment that allowed me to ask myself the questions of awareness that I needed to go, okay, from this point forward, events happen in our lives that we have no control over. But we do have control over our responses or our choices to those events. And I honestly think that that was my signature moment. Right. Where I was like, okay, I'm not going to blame my dad. I'm not going to blame my mom. I'm not going to blame the government. Whoever it is that we want to blame at any given point in time, the capital markets, that it was up to me. And I think that was the start of my wealth consciousness, was that awareness, that self-love that over time turned into self-respect and choices that were in alignment with me, that allowed me then to be in debt, $92,000, to be a CEO of a wealth management firm today.
Wow. Kim, I love that story. That was so full of so many, I could have gone down 100 roads in that little bit. Part of the reason I loved that story was because money is about so much more than money. It's about so much more than, what's in your bank account or any of that, the numbers. And so, you just explained how your identity and your sense of self-worth impacts your financial life. And it goes so far beyond just the practical aspects of, this is how I budget or whatever. So, and I think that's the most important thing for people to understand. The rest of it we can learn. It's not that hard, actually, to understand financial management. But what is hard is to get to that inner awareness that, unfortunately, you had a lovely event happen to you that, helped that click for you. How can we help other people who maybe don't have something as nice as that happen to have that, sort of change of perspective?
Well, I hope this conversation is their so to speak, $1,000 gift that gets them to the other side, metaphorically. I think it's important to understand that there are two laws of money. And the first law is what I do every day, and that's the human-made laws of money, the human money laws, and that's cash flow management, retirement planning, tax strategy, protection planning, investments, of course. So those are the things daily that I address, and that's what we tend to think about when we think of money. The unfortunate, and that's kind of linear. It's goal-based, and it's time-bound. The second law of money is the natural money laws. And the natural money laws are already inside of us. They're inherent in who we are. And I think that story for myself was really getting into my natural money laws. And some examples of that are giving and receiving. Mm-hmm. In order to receive, you have to give, or to give, you also have to receive. Either side of that in harmony and balance. Another is cause and effect. Supply and demand, even as far as mercy and justice, those are all natural money laws that we see all around us, and they're inside of us. And so they're heart-centered. They're timeless. And that if we can recognize that instead of going to the human-made laws, but to go to the natural money laws and understand that they're already inside of us and they're heart-centered, then we start to feel some of the energy around wealth consciousness, which ultimately starts with awareness and feeling that first. Awareness of looking at nature, looking at ebb and flow. You know, when money's not coming in, it feels terrible, but working on ourselves. So when it does flow, we're ready to do that next step as business owners or leaders or whatever, or in our families that we need to do, and we're ready for it. So those are, ebb and flow is another natural money law. But if you understand those, then it's so much easier to know that you're deserving, that your self-worth is already inside of you, and that you're here for a reason. And that culturally, particularly as women, it's harder for us to recognize our self-worth because there's lots of culture, and even for men too, of course, in different ways. But there's lots of messages that we get that tend to make us feel like we have to give to others before we take care of ourselves. And that manifests in lower self-worth oftentimes than many.
Yes, thank you for that. And I was thinking as you were telling the earlier story that, that sense of love that you had when that $1,000 came your way, that's the highest energetic vibration we can be in. And so when you start moving yourself into that, because a lot of times with money, we're in a state of fear, we're in a state of, all kinds of negative things, or, anger, where we're blaming people. That is a low energetic state to be in. And so you have illustrated also, if you can work with your own mind and your own, understanding of your emotions, you can put yourself in these states where you're more likely to receive, you're more likely to see abundance around you, whether it's financial or otherwise. So this is really important stuff. And I know some people will listen to it and think it's woo-woo and, want to go read a financial book. But
very true, Michelle, which is why I love to talk about it, because I'm wearing a suit. My work is very left brain.
Yeah.
That's why the fact that I could talk about this from the right brain or right directed or the creative side, it's not one or the other, it's both.
Right. And I know how I got to this place, because I worked in, finance and accounting and corporate for 15 years, worked at a big accounting firm when it was the big eight. That's not true anymore. And so this was not a conversation anybody was having in the office. It wasn't a conversation that happened in school. It was not until much later. So how did you find your way to thinking about money this way?
Recognizing the distinctions.
Yeah.
Because again, I have that legal background, so I'm very left-directed thinking. But the fact that I had that experience early on allowed me to be curious enough to ask different questions. And so when I see couples, and particularly when women may be checked out And the spouse is leading the money conversation. And oftentimes that money conversation, when people come to us, is tied to investments.
Right.
They have enough money and they don't necessarily feel like they could manage it, and they want to have an outside manager. To bring the spouse in to talk about goal setting and family and aging parents and education funding and family dynamics. For the first time, it's a conversation that perhaps she's interested in, and one, she can have a voice at the table. And so I think what we do really well is allow for that container so that both can be heard, and that for many, the conversation is actually really interesting. It doesn't have to be about investments. Investments is actually a very, very tiny piece of this bigger picture of who you are and how you show up around money. Because remember, it navigates every part of our existence as it relates to our relationships with our spouse, our children, our aging parents. It's every part of that.
Right.
So if we can be aware and curious enough to go, what does this look like? I'm curious as if I participated in this conversation with my mate, how much better that would be in terms of our joint outcome. And that, I can't tell you how many times where I'm in a room and there are tears because it's the first time that they have joint goals.
Yeah.
And that's just a beautiful place to be as a family, as a couple, and then also the conversations that you would have with your children later as they become young adults.
Yeah, and what a great sort of model to set for your kids that you're both involved in the process. Because I do think what most, well, I don't even know if it's most, but what I see a lot, is that there's one or the other in the family who's taking care of the money. And I think even the kids see that can be precarious. Like, I can think of situations where the kids are actually thinking, if anything happened to dad, he literally, or to mom rather, dad would not even know what to do.
Particularly on budgeting and cash flow. Oftentimes, the female is handling the day-to-day and knows everything about the household expenses.
Right.
But maybe nothing about the long-term investments.
Yeah, and there's something that's come up recently that I've seen where no matter how you cut it, somebody can feel left out and like there's mystery around their money situation. So whoever's handling the day-to-day, the other partner may feel like they're totally out of the loop and have no control over that part of it. And then if somebody, maybe the other partner is more in charge of investments and things like that, then the day-to-day person might be feeling like they're out of the loop. So it's nice to delegate the duties, but what you're speaking to is you have to get together and connect on kind of the bigger money picture, which is what you help people do.
Well, and it gets back to your specific question of, so how do you really do that? That's really that inspired action that we that's step by step in the direction that is in front of you. So money success is small steps, small right steps as they're appropriate. So for me, in that particular story, my first right next step was to call and talk to there were 3 loans that I had, and to have that difficult conversation with every single one of them as it relates to, I'm showing up, here's what I could pay. And it started out, I feel the emotion today, how difficult that was. So it started out like $50 a month. And I started out with the one that had the lowest amount. And this is also similar for credit card balances. Do you do the lowest dollar amount for momentum, or do you do the highest balance in terms of the highest credit, the interest rate on it? So it depends on how you are and where you get that momentum. But I started with the lowest balance. Right. So I could knock that out first. Right. And then take it. And then I went to the highest interest rate.
I love that process. I mean, obviously you have a choice in whatever matters to you, but I love that you bring that up, because that's a great way just to, again, reset your own identity. When you pay off a loan, even if it's the smallest one, you suddenly have a new identity as somebody who pays off their debts, and you have momentum. You now know how to do it, and you're in a habit. And so there's a lot to be said for sort of, taking the smaller steps, like you're saying.
and up-leveling your game.
Yes.
I think that, and we have to do that all through our lives, from teenagers to young adults in our 20s to in our 50s. So up-leveling your money game is very important as to what you deserve and what you're ready for, because trust me, you will only get what you believe you deserve, whether it's a salary or whether it's how much you have in the bank.
Right.
I continue to up-level, and I'm always shocked that I need to up-level.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but it's continually up-leveling of what you deserve.
I love that you brought that up too, because I'm the same way. You think you've got it and you're kind of walking around like, you know, and then something new comes along. It just happened to me where it was an investment that I was uncomfortable with. And I almost didn't want to do it. There was more of a part of me saying, regardless of what the returns might be, I need to do this because I'm scared to do it. And that's an up-leveling that clearly I need, because, you know, I had a lot of irrational fears around it. And who knows how it'll go, but I felt like I needed it for my own growth. So I kind of love what you're saying.
Well, I remember when I showed my mom that I had $25,000 in my 401k account. I was so proud and thrilled. And what I had realized at that time is that I had more than my mom. And that's what happens to us, is that as we get money smart, is oftentimes we will have more than what our parents had. And what we should, because of inflation and everything else going on and the price of housing. But I'll never forget that conversation. And then it was 50,000, and then it was 100,000. And then all of a sudden, after you have 100,000, 200, I have to tell you that momentum and energy and excitement, you want to be a part of that. You want to be a part, because then you see joy and you realize how you could help other people.
Yeah.
And so for those of us that were raised that money is for other people, not for us, or money is evil, or whatever story you've been telling yourself, is it really your story? Or is it something that was your great-grandparents' story back in the day that no longer is fitting or appropriate for you? And I think that's really where we start as it relates to unpacking our stories, to find out who we are around money. And is it our own?
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, we use the term story, and in a way, I feel like it diminishes the importance. Like, it is a story you're telling yourself, but it's not just a story. Like, it is literally your identity. It is your belief system, and it's lodged in there pretty good, you know. So to try to get to a point where you're believing something different it's not a simple kind of thing. It's a practice.
I think that's great, Michelle. I mean, to talk about it is a belief system, and how do you unpack that to create a new one that provides for success and expansion is really important. And I think that's such a better word.
Well, yeah, I like both words. I'm not commenting on the word.
It really kind of fits.
Because people can visualize a story. So I actually do love that. But, yeah, thank you. I want, I guess, just to impress upon people how deep this goes. You know, it's real. It's not a silly thing. So when you are working with people in wealth management, you know, I think people hear that and they make a lot of assumptions even about those people. You know, they're already wealthy because they're speaking to a wealth manager. What do you have to say about, you know, the clients who come to you? Do they have their own stories? I mean, are there issues there, even though they're in good enough shape to be talking to you?
You know, I think that's, again, a belief that we have, that people with money have already figured it out.
Yeah.
That they already feel worthy, that they already feel this. And I think that it's just so important for us to, one day at a time, recognize where we are. Because when you see someone up there or out there, or whether it's an athlete or somebody that's important to us, trust me, we all daily have self-worth or who am I or imposter syndrome questions. They don't go away.
Yeah.
it really is up to us to continually have the curiosity of, and be aware. And awareness, of course, is that number one thing that allows us then, if we're aware, we're more likely to make different decisions for ourselves that are more in our favor. Because remember, events happen in our life all the time, but what is your response to that, or the choices that you're going to make to create better outcomes for yourself around money? And I think that's really, really important to understand, that regardless of someone's perceived wealth or perceived success, recognize that they are just like you and me and have the same daily struggles.
Yeah. Thank you for that. This is so good. I'm loving this conversation. It does make me think about relationships, and I love to equate the two, because in another relationship, maybe it's, a more interpersonal relationship, waiting until you feel like you look exactly the way you want to look, or you feel exactly the way you want to feel, or you're at a certain career stage that you feel you need to be. If we wait for all of these things before we have a relationship or allow ourselves to, that's not going to work that well. So, and it's the same with money. I mean, we sort of wait until we're earning enough or we're doing whatever. And so, I think it's so important to start early. Maybe obviously make some mistakes. I mean, it's not a maybe thing. We all make so many mistakes with money. I feel like that's how we're taught about money in this country, sadly. There's not really an
anything
education.
In life.
What's that?
That's how we're taught anything in life, is mistakes are learnings.
Yeah.
So every day, whether it's money or our choices that we make daily, are course corrections to a different path.
Yes, that is so true. I mean, it rubs me the wrong way a little bit more with money, because time and money are so connected. And the earlier we start doing things well, the better off we will be in the long run. So I do have an issue with the fact that we aren't taught more, but we do learn from mistakes. And that was one thing I wanted to kind of add into the show, starting with you, Kim, is, to just kind of reveal some of the mistakes. And maybe other people don't have to make them the way we have. So is there a mistake that you can think of that you could offer up so people can learn from that?
Yeah, there are many, many, but I'll just start with one, and we already talked about it a little bit, is just getting started. Taking your head out of the sand and really saying, I am going to make different choices about money, and I am going to be in charge of my own boat, so to speak, and not, instead of letting it float to the sides, is really inspired action. So I would say the number one thing is just start. Mm-hmm. Start. Whatever your heart, that, again, from those natural money laws, whatever your heart is telling you is that first step, have that conversation with your spouse that I'm in debt. Mm-hmm. I have credit card debt. I want to admit it to you. Whatever that start is that we need to do to fess up to ourselves or to someone else, maybe that's the first step. Maybe it's you're not participating in your retirement plan if you're lucky enough to have one at work. If you're an entrepreneur, create one for yourself. Set up a simplified employee pension or solo 401k or whatever it is. Do something today that is inspired action that allows you to break through whatever that block is to get started. Because once you get started, it's everything we talked about already. That momentum is huge, and it feels so good, and then you just feel so much better about yourself.
Yes.
And set it and forget it, particularly with a retirement plan. Don't take a loan from it. That's the worst place to take a loan. Set it and forget it. And when the markets kind of go south, which they invariably do, keep your allocation the same, and because you're then buying in when the market's low, so you're buying more shares. So don't mess with your retirement plan during down markets. Look at it as opportunity, as long as you're not near that retirement goal. And even if you are near that retirement goal, you still probably have 30 more years
right,
for that money. So, and in money timelines, anything less than 5 years should not be invested in the stock market. It should be in safe investments for a particular goal. So if you have a goal within 5 years, you should have it in a savings account or some kind of account that pays. Now we have interest income that we haven't had in a while. So if you could get 4% or a 1-year CD, maybe higher than 4.5%, how lucky are we right now?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I love that because you're very calmly talking about the ebbs and flows and the changes in the market. And there is such panic around it. And of course, it's, whatever's happening isn't going to last. And so, yeah, I really like that approach for people. And, there was something that came up. Oh, you mentioned something about fessing up. And I thought that was such an important point because we don't tend to be so honest. And maybe that's part of the self-awareness. And it's also about shame. We have a lot of shame around money. And so we do silly things. Then we feel like we're the only ones doing it. And, we don't want to tell anybody. And so acknowledging that is so important. And I would imagine you find that with your clients too, coming in and either hiding things or fessing up and having to go forward. How do you help them with forgiving themselves or whatever they need?
Non-judgmental, because we've all been there. Non-judgmental. And I think the sooner that we are honest with ourselves, the sooner we can be honest with our children, and the sooner that we could break the generational gap or divide that maybe has come from our parents. Because money flows down, and you may think that you're showing up, and it's not you. Trust me, it's your mom, it's your dad, it's your great-grandfather or great-great that shows up with us around money. So if you can be honest with yourself so that your children have a different perspective, it's kind of like that stone in the pond that has rippled out. Yeah. You've just made a difference in your family tree. And that, to me, is what makes everything matter.
Yeah, that's the legacy piece of what you are doing. Yeah, thank you. That was really beautifully said. Even when you were talking about being afraid to open the letter from the loan company with your student loans, I think we all experience that. I won't open that credit card bill or whatever for a while. And none of that is, none of it's helpful, but also none of it is just allowing you to sort of feel your feelings and learn from what you're doing and
grow.
And grow. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kim, I hate that we're almost out of time here, but can you tell people how to find you, potentially how to work with you? How do you, and you do have a couple books out there if you'd like to talk about that.
I'd love to do that. Thank you. So Money Secrets, Keys to Smart Investing, won 4 book awards. It's a quick read. It's really accessible. I love it because it gives you armor so that if you are looking to hire a financial advisor, you have the questions to ask that they should be asking you. And Retirement Secrets, Keys to Retiring Happy, Healthy, and Free. That is more of a lifestyle book. I had 3 different clients within a matter of 2 months ask me as they were getting close to retirement, do I have any suggestions on a book to read on how to do it, how to do retirement, unrelated to money? And I was like, oh, wow. And being the data girl that I am, I did a lot of research and read a lot of books and recognized that there really wasn't a book that really was written in a way that was done well. And so that's what that book is. And both of them are on Amazon. And I just love Retirement Secrets. It has a checklist on relocation checklist if you wanted to move to a different place. It has conversations for spouses to ask each other. There's so many checklists in there that are extremely, extremely valuable. And then you can, on Instagram, Kim Curtis Prosperity, follow me there. And of course, LinkedIn.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. The books sound amazing. And, I'm going to read those myself. And, I hope people will go on Amazon, find the books, because especially, it's really important to read about money. That's part of the money education. And these books sound like, quick reads, but also very relevant to people's lives. Things you can
Michelle,
apply right away.
I just realized on financialliteracypress.com, there are some freebies there that may be really helpful to the listeners and viewers. There's an aging parent checklist.
Ooh, I could use
that's
that.
25 plus pages that my sister and I wrote when we lost our mom a couple years ago, and recognized that we were missing some key pieces, not necessarily the money piece as much as doing a playlist of her favorite music, so that when she could no longer articulate what she wanted to hear, we had it for her that we could play when she couldn't communicate with us anymore. And so
Oh,
Aging
that's
Current Checklist
that's
is
amazing.
at financialliteracypress.com.
Financial Literacy Press. Okay, that's one that has not come up before. That is great, and I love that. Having just gotten off a year of taking care of my parents, I could have used a checklist like that because you're frantic and you don't know what you're doing. So yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, well, and just so they can find you on LinkedIn, they can find you on Instagram. Is there a website that you have, or are those the best places?
Those are the best places.
Okay.
Of course, there's wealthlegacyinstitute.com.
Okay.
But the others is where you're going to get some really juicy, good data stuff.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for offering that to our audience, and thank you for coming in today. This was great. I think you were very inspiring. I think you make it, you kind of set a nice runway for people to start going down this path. So
let's hope so, right?
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. And like you said, when you do, you just feel better on so many levels. And so just start, as you also said. So thank you for being here and providing such great wisdom today. And thank you, audience, for being here. We love having you watch The Money and You Show or listen to The Money and You Show. You can find us on all the podcast platforms, on the Limit Free Life YouTube channel, on Roku. We're around. So, we love bringing you both information on your relationship with money and some practical things that you can do so that you can really boost your financial life and your financial well-being. So thank you for being here. We'll see you next week.